Hey guys, Video Game Maker here, and welcome back to another exciting Godot 4 C# tutorial. This is tutorial number 4, making the main menu. I've outdone myself this time and made so many changes and such a large main menu, out of necessity, that it isn't realistic to fit it into a YouTube consumable video. But I mean, doing all the code interactively and then doing all the menu building. We are going to do a little bit of menu building together so that I can show you how it's done. Please download this tutorial's resources from GitHub. Unzip the file and open the project in the tutorial 4 folder. In this tutorial, I'll be reviewing the main menu that will utilize the Save, Load, Delete system. If you need a refresher on how to set up menu buttons, labels, and signals, please refer to tutorial number 2. This code has been reviewed and updated for this tutorial, and some mistakes have been resolved and improvements have been implemented. The following has been implemented in the file system. All scenes that are not meant to be changed into as part of the game are now in the prefabs folder. Underscore PFB is appended to the end of the file's name. So for example, save load delete menu underscore PFB. This is to signify that the file is a prefab and not a standalone scene. Each prefab folder will contain a scripts, sprites, etc. folder inside them. Each prefab folder is only going to contain the folders that they absolutely positively need. So if a particular prefab doesn't use any sprites, then it's not going to have sprites in the folder with it. So to show you the layout now, I got prefabs, I have menus, so all of my menus are going to go here because they just aren't going to have that much extra to them that I want to break them up further. I got scripts, and then inside there I got my main menu, and I got my save, load, delete menu inside it. Now, the functionality of main menu has been changed. This main menu is now going to control all the menus that we're going to make, and save, load, delete menu is the old main menu from the previous tutorials. It still has most of the same code and just some bug fixes have been made. And save, load, delete menu PFB TSCN has our buttons and our signals and all the code hooked up to them. The scripts folder has been updated. Main is going to hold the primary scripts responsible for holding core functionality for the game. Currently, Game Master and Scene Manager are in this folder. Main/constructors. Those are class scripts that define a class but do not directly have data in the code. Main/data classes are class scripts whose primary function is to hold data. So the scene constructor.cs doesn't have data inside the class, it just defines what the class looks like. Game data and player data mostly are not put there to define what the class should look like, they're just holding data. That's their purpose. And finally, the testing folder is going to be scripts for the purpose of testing and will be deleted later. In our particular instance, we have the player data test that is in one of the other scenes. Will echo out to the label, the scene file path, the current slot, and the sample dictionary of the running code. Specifically, we are reading a value from the runtime that we want to use. Let's go ahead and get looking at this project together. In 10 main, the idea for this is to have multiple menus inside of it. And one gotcha that I found in Godot is that if you have a Node 2D as your parent, and then you have a canvas layer and a control node underneath it, it won't hide it if you toggle it off. So if I toggle this off and toggle it back on, so that's a problem. I wanted it to be that when I assign this in 10 main for 10 main to turn this whole menu on and off, I want it to just be a single call. What I did is in the Save Load Delete Menu PFB is I converted the 2D node. You right click and you can choose change type and changed it to a canvas layer type. And I just moved everything up just one level. And what I'd like to do is go ahead and let's just do a couple buttons together and just do a main menu together. So I'm just going to hit plus and we're going to choose other node. And of course, we're going to start with the canvas layer. If you don't have that typed in, just go ahead into your search and type in canvas layer. And we're going to start right off the bat with the canvas layer. And then we're going to just go ahead and add a child node, and we need the control node. Create that, put that in there, and we're going to stretch it over our entire canvas. So let's go ahead and click on here and expand our anchor. And then we need to do 3 buttons. We're just going to do 3 buttons. We're not going to do all 9. We're just going to hit a child node, and we're going to just do button and hit create. And we're just going to call this new 1. And then this is just going to be new button 1. And we'll duplicate it and we'll call this load button 1. And one more time. And let's call this delete button 1. Let's call this load 1. And come over here and change the text and change this to delete 1. And now we are going to attach the script. Go ahead and take a look at the CS file real quick. And it is set up to extend the canvas layer. So that's what it's expecting. That's the type of node that it expects to be part of. Go on over to the canvas layer, right click, and we're going to attach a script. It's going to be an existing script that you have, and we're going to go into prefabs, menus, scripts. We want the SaveLoadDeleteMenu.cs. We're just going to hit load. You're going to see that pop us over there. Back over to Godot. And if you come over to the right side, I have buttons and labels, and you're going to see that it's got this nice collapsible interface. The way that I got that to work was you can do what's called an export group. So that means that everything underneath this will be its group. And then you can add another tag called export subgroup. So all of these are going to be part of that subgroup and give you that nice pull down behavior. So there's a little bit of code syntax that you can copy and use in your own projects to do the export group and export subgroup to make your field assignments look nicer. Let's go ahead and go back over to Godot. And I'm going to assign the 3 buttons. So new 1 is just going to be new button 1, load 1, be load button 1, delete 1 is going to be delete button 1. And let's go ahead and just make it so delete button over to the side, just like the menu that I made. Do 64.0. Now, when we're doing the new and load button, they share a function because the functionality is essentially the same. So the function that we want to do is underscore on new load button up, and it requires an integer. So we're going to send an argument integer, this time 1, and to be able to create the new button. So come back over to Godot. We're going to hit new button 1, hit node, hit button up underneath the signals, and we're going to replace the receiver method and make sure the canvas layer is selected. That's where the script is. We're going to send an integer, and we're just going to hit add. We're just going to hit a 1. Just going to hit connect. It's going to pop you back over to Visual Studio. Just come on back to Godot. And then you're going to come over to load button 1, and you're going to do exactly the same thing. Button up, paste in the method from the C# code, choose integer, add 1, and hit connect. And now we're going to scroll on down and get the delete code as well. And again, it does take an integer. So on _ delete button up. I'm going to copy that. Come back over to Godot, hit delete button, hit button up. Put that in there, integer, and make that a 1, and just hit connect. So my 3 buttons are now assigned to the C# script, and all of the signals are all hooked up as well. And I just showed you how the main menu was built. And I'm not going to save this because the entire menu is completely assembled. One thing I did was I added panels to hold my buttons into visual groupings so that I could just make it that if I didn't want to look at panel 1, I could just crush it all down and just make it a little bit easier to navigate through this because it does have so many buttons. There's one key aspect to the panel is that we need to make it so that it does not accept user input, and also it doesn't show anything on the screen. So to not show anything on the screen, you want to do self-modulate and change the alpha to 0. And the other thing that you want to do is turn off the mouse filter and change it to ignore. So again, the most important thing is that if you're just going to use a panel to just organize your buttons and you don't want them to interact or interfere with your UI, change the self-modulate alpha to 0, and then find the mouse category and change the filter to ignore, and it will totally ignore everything and just function to hold things together for us. To test this main menu, one thing that I would like to do is to be able to see the data files that the menu system and all the scripts that we wrote are actually working, and the data that we're putting in there is what is actually going in there. So let's go ahead and open up our Window Explorer and type in a % and type in app data and finish it off with a % and hit enter. And then we're going to go into Godot, use app user data, and then this is called tutorial, so go into tutorial. If you've played the game before, you'll have files in this folder. If this folder does not exist, play the game one time, and then you will have these files in your file system. Let's take a look at player.1.sav. That up in Notepad++. So you're going to see that it's still a new file. The save file version's in there, our checkpoints in there, our overworld checkpoint, our save scene, our sample dictionary, and all of the values that go with it. Remember what I was saying about enumerators previously, that when you assign your enumerator, you want to specifically say what number that enumerator is. So if you want to change the scene that the player jumps to in this particular save scene here, you would change this, for our particular example, to a 30. So everything right now is going to say original test at the end of it. But what I'm going to do is just change this, and now let's go ahead and just call this test save 1. And then hit Control S to save. And what we can do is we're going to start from 10 main. If 10 main is not your default scene, you're going to come over to project settings, and we're going to come over to run and make sure that 10 main is in there. You can always click on the folder, come up to res scenes, and 10 main is in there. It gave us 2 additional scenes that are pretty similar. 20 level 1 will give us that testing script. So our test script here is going to accept a label, and it's going to print out our current scene file path, what our current slot number is, as well as an example text item from the player data sample dictionary. So you can see that it is going to be assigned my label right here, and picked out. Click it, see, label, assigned. And 30 does not have a test script on it, but that's okay. 30 can just be green over here, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and start running our game. We're going to run it from the very beginning of the game so we can get the full test of all the software. We're going to hit play, playing it from the very beginning. And you see that the text that we altered in the save file, save1, doesn't say original test in there anymore. So it is reading the text from the text files and putting it into these fields. Let's go ahead and click on New 2, and that takes us over and shows us what scene file path we're in. Well, it's flat off the side. What slot Game Master is on, which is 2. Excellent. And our sample dictionary text. Let's just close it and then reopen our game again. You can see. So now the new file is false, test level 1, original test. We got test save 1. But this still is a new file. So let's go ahead and click on new 1. As you can see, still say test save 1, but now it's no longer a new file. Close it out, open up our game again one more time. And now we got new loads and deletes, whatever. Let's go ahead and try deleting them and resetting them back to original. Delete, and now it's an original test. And all the values are set back to the original values of the player data class. Now, if you'd like to test this out further and go in your file system and change the values around and see what they do, go ahead, I encourage it. I have also given you a reset all data button that after you've messed around with it a bit, you can clear them all out and it will overwrite all the files with the default class data that's in the player data.cs. And then that's whole main menu for new, load, and delete with 3 different slave slots for your game. So that concludes my tutorial for the main menu using my system. I hope you like it. Go ahead and take a look at the code and see what it's doing. It's not super complicated, but it is detailed. So thank you very much and have a great day.